Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webcast. Competing on customer experience is the focus of today's webcast. My name is Razum, and I lead marketing at CPO Innovation. Please allow me to introduce today's speaker, Joseph Lim, Sales Director, Asia Pacific at Blue Jay Solutions, Singapore. Joseph is a highly experienced regional sales leader in the supply chain, industrial automation, and security space. Prior to Blue Jay Solutions, Joseph assumed various leadership positions, including as ASEAN Director with Honeywell, Safety and Productivity Solutions, Regional GM with Datamax O'Neill by Honeywell, and Senior Channel Management Director with Entrust Datacard. His highly consultative and collaborative approach has helped many organizations achieve business improvement and increase productivity, profitability through value-driven solutions and automation. Today's webcast directs us to a very famous saying. It goes, "What took us here won't take us any further," which brings me back to a very boiling point of the moment, which talks about past performances is no guarantee of future results. The people, processes, technologies, and other factors that made companies successful up to this point are not necessarily going to be the same as what enables you to achieve new levels of success moving forward. The new normals of the industry is being redefined. One trend that is disrupting the status quo and serving as a catalyst for innovation is companies placing customers in the center of their supply chains, center of the supply chain heart. Competing on price is taking a backseat, staying on top of technology trends, and making enhanced customer experience a defined and more measurable objective are the key differentiators that will pull you ahead of the curve today. Customer experience matters to supply chain executives too. There's no denying. It's one of the biggest factors in striving for innovation. Blue Jay Solutions delivers supply chain software and services to the world's most progressive retailers, distributors, freight forwarders, manufacturers, and logistics service providers. Transforming supply chain logistics with the Blue Jay Global Trade Network. Blue Jay enables customers to unlock the power of more than 40,000 universally connected partners. With Blue Jay, companies can achieve greater trade velocity, transform their supply chain economics for disruptive advantage, and see beyond the horizon to optimize their future in the global economy. Now, before handing over to Joseph, I have a couple of housekeeping items to take care about. This webcast will be available on demand, accessible via the same link you've joined us today. And as we progress towards the webcast, I press that you engage more and more, throw to us more and more questions, and I hope that Joseph and I mutually help you get the answers delivered during the webinar, and the questions that are left due to limited time, we will be happy to answer in a post-webinar report. With no delay, I'm happy to give the charge to Joseph. Joseph, over to you.
Razum. So today I want to talk to everyone on the call about competing on customer experience. So this was a survey that we actually commissioned one of our consulting companies, Adelante, to actually commission this particular research paper on about the relevance of competing in the market space. We as logisticians in the market space our own customer experience. So let's go on to the presentation together. Give me a second. Hold on. Why don't we restart? Something happened. Hey guys, I think we got to restart.
That's okay.
That's okay?
Yeah, no issues. That's the beauty.
Okay. Can you see the first screen?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, let's get started. So competing on customer experience, this is a supply chain innovation research conducted by Adelante, commissioned by Blue Jay Solutions. So let us start off with maybe giving everyone a brief introduction about who Blue Jay Solutions is. Okay, we are the experts in supply chain and global trade. Our solutions help customers like yourself, as well as your customers, deliver fast and on-time delivery, as well as safe delivery. And on the BlueJ network itself, we have 7,500 global customers that rely on BlueJ on a daily basis for transactions. Okay, some highlights. We conduct business across 112 countries. We are headquartered in London, in UK. We have 14 offices in 12 countries. So if you look at the Asia Pacific landscape and how we're actually set up in Asia Pacific. So from north right up to south, so you will see that we have coverage. We have an office in Tokyo, in Japan itself, offices in Shanghai, in China, office in Hong Kong. In India, we have an office in Hyderabad. For the rest of ASEAN, we're actually based out of Singapore, office in Australia, as well as an office in Christchurch in New Zealand. So pretty well represented across the region itself, and almost 500 people across the region itself. And India being one of our very focused regions, I think in India itself, we have over about 350 people just based out of our Hyderabad office itself. Okay, we have 10 data centers across 3 continents, and over 37 billion transacted in annual commerce transacted on our platform. And we are private equity owned. We are actually co-owned by Francisco Partners as well as Temasek Holding out from Singapore. So a lot of folks also ask us, and they ask us saying, hey, Joseph, is BlueJ, it's a relatively new brand name in the market space. How are you guys positioned in the market space and so forth? So just some clarity, right? So BlueJ Solutions, we've been 45 years in the business already. Previously, we were known as Keywheel. And we actually have combined experience of Keywheel, IPEX. In India, we actually did an acquisition for Forsolve. So a lot of you guys might be more so-called know us by Forsolve in India. Lean Logistics in the US, as well as Black Bay out in Australia and New Zealand. Okay, so I want to jump very quickly into the Gartner TMS Magic Quadrant and how we are actually positioned against our competitors. So you can see that for BlueJ Solutions, we are ranked maybe about number 4 in the market space. So of course, in the leader position, we have Oracle, SAP, as well as JDA. I think we're actually positioned really, really nicely as we are in that leadership challenger space, and we challenge the leaders in this particular space. So I think we are in a good sweet spot when it comes to offering a very competitive, a very so-called robust TMS, as well as the robust solution out in the market space. And for 2018, we've actually garnered an additional ranking under the Gartner Multi-Enterprise Supply Chain Business Network. So this is pretty recent. We've got the additional ranking in November 2018. Okay, some highlights, like I was saying, we had 1,100 dedicated professionals across the world, and a big chunk of it, above 300 people out from Hyderabad. So a big significant chunk of our representation is in India. 1.9 billion transportation transactions processed annually globally on our platform itself. 4.5 billion boxes shipped on our platform annually, as well as 7,500 customers worldwide. So you can see that Asia Pacific, in comparison to our market share across the globe, it actually presents us in a very good position in the sense that we have a lot of growth and a lot of share that we can gain within Asia Pacific. We are coming from a pretty low base, and that gives us a really long runway. It gives us a really good so-called growth growth factor in terms of the customers that we can address in the market space, as well as the potential within the market itself. Okay, so without further ado, let me jump directly into the survey background itself. So why did we do what we do? No, why did we commission that particular survey? So at Adelante as well as Blue Jay, we had solutions. So a few key questions that we asked ourselves, right? So is customer experience, CX, becoming more critical to supply chain performance? As well as what is driving supply chain innovation? What is stalling supply chain innovation? As well as what technologies will pull the next wave of innovation through supply chain? So today, I hope that we can maybe share the results of the particular survey, as well as maybe have some findings out of this to actually reach some summary for this particular four questions that we wanted to answer. Right, the survey was conducted in March 2018. It's an online survey for supply chain and logistics professional. The respondents include manufacturers, retailer, logistics service providers, and others across the globe. The respondents came from companies with revenue of more than 250 million US dollars in annual revenue. Okay. The full research report is available at www.supplychainresearch.info. Okay, let's go through some of the survey highlights. Okay, so one of the questions that we asked is that what factors are driving innovation? So you can see that from the screen itself. If you see that to deliver an enhanced customer experience, as well as to reduce costs, both these so-called answers had the same number of percentage, and a very huge percentage of 31.4%. So I think from this particular slide, we can conclude that both the customer experience as well as cost reduction is a key component when it comes to driving innovation. And of course, placing third is to create a competitive advantage, coming in at 17.5%. The next highlight is that what are the top 3 factors driving supply chain innovation at our company today? So I think based on the answers previously, that means to reduce costs, to deliver an enhanced customer experience, as well as to create a competitive advantage. You can see all these 3 here. And then we actually split up. We actually rank the respondents as well. You know, how do we segment the respondents? So we segment the respondents into 2 different categories: the innovators or early adopters, as well as the laggard and the late majority. And the 2 below, that means, do they have above average supply chain performance or average or below supply chain performance? So you can see that to deliver an enhanced customer experience, right? The innovators, the early adopters, this was actually ranked really high. The respondents, we had about 36% actually voting that to enhance a customer experience was key, one of the key factors driving their supply chain innovation today. And they also have 37% of having an above average supply chain performance. Versus, let's look at the reduced cost and becoming more cost competitive, right? So if you look at to reduce cost and becoming more cost competitive, the respondents that actually voted for this particular factor actually came from the laggards or late majority. And most of them, actually, if you look at the ranking, actually has a huge chunk coming from the average or below average supply chain performance. That actually drives some conclusion, which I will summarize at the end of the presentation. So the next question that we also ask is that delivering an enhanced customer experience, delivering an enhanced customer experience a defined and measured objective within your supply chain organization. So immediately we can see that there is some correlation between technology adoption as well as supply chain innovation. The innovators and had a really direct, almost a direct translation when it comes down to supply chain performance. So you can see that the early adopters actually translate to having an above average supply chain performance. So that also tells us something which I will summarize at the end of the presentation. Okay. So let's change gears a bit. Let's talk about the barriers to supply chain innovation. So this is the response that we had across all the respondents. The top 5 barriers that we see a lot of the respondents actually spoke about was that the existing IT systems are outdated. And the siloed systems of processes, that means it's not integrated as a whole into their organization itself. And the lack of flexibility and innovation among their supply chain partners. That means the carriers that they partner with, maybe the other service provider or solution providers that they partner with, or even the hardware manufacturers that they partner with to supply them with the supply chain equipment. And the lack of support from IT or other functional groups within their organization. And of course, the last one being the change management hurdles internally that they have to face in terms of having a so-called supply chain innovation. Okay, looking ahead, when we think about the high impact technology, and we ask this question, in the next 5 years, which technologies would have delivered the most supply chain innovation benefits? And we can see that mobility and apps rank right up there at number 1 at 27.9%. There's a lot of focus on control tower visibility as well. Predictive as well as prescriptive at 20%. Warehouse automation as well as the robotics at 19.3%. AI and machine learning, this is a big buzzword right now, at 10.5%. IoT, all the sensors, at 9.3%. Driverless trucks at 7.9%. Blockchain, drones, as well as 3D printing, making up the rest of the high impact technology that would give the most benefit within the next 5 years. Okay, so we also ask this question: what systems do you currently use to manage your supply chain? And surprisingly, we can actually kind of see a very clear translation that when we look at the innovators, they actually use a lot of the automation software in terms of transportation management solution. They actually use a big chunk, more than half actually are on a warehouse management system. Okay? And of course, we have a big chunk also on Excel spreadsheets. But if you look at the laggards and the late majority, big chunk is actually still on spreadsheets. That means they manage their business on spreadsheets, and they don't have the systems in place to manage their supply chain. Okay, now I want to talk about the top supply chain investment priorities. And this was the findings from the survey itself. That means, what are the supply chain investment priorities from the respondents within the next 5 years? So transportation actually plays a really big part when it comes down to priorities for the next 5 years. They actually ranked it at 28.5%. Supply chain visibility at 19.7%. Warehousing at 19%. BI and analytics, 13.1%, and trading partner connectivity. These will be the supply chain vendors as well as carrier relationships that you have in the market space at 9.5%. Okay, so let us, after sharing all a lot of the highlights, the survey highlights, let's try to conclude and let's go into the summary and see what are the to see whether when we set out to answer some of the questions when we commission the survey, whether some of those questions has already been answered. So in summary, what is supply chain innovation? And it's not very well understood or universally defined. We found that out across all our respondents. So one company's supply chain improvement initiative, it could be another company's process improvement. That means they don't put it under supply chain innovation itself. And sometimes it doesn't have to be new or groundbreaking. It doesn't have to be a proof of concept or a trial on a drone technology or a driverless truck technology. It sometimes can mean doing the same thing in a more creative way. More often than not, sustaining innovations can create incremental improvements. It's the small steps that actually make the biggest benefit to the organization. And customer experience drives innovation at the supply chain leaders. That's something that we have actually clearly shown that from the survey results that it does drive the supply chain leaders to think about how technology can play a role in their customer experience. And a lot of the times, the innovation gains cannot be scaled without technology. Okay. So one of the summaries that we came away from the survey as well is that technology adoption is key to supply chain innovation as well as performance. So one of the conclusions that we had is that questions that we had was that how would you rate your company's overall supply chain performance relative to peers in your industry? And you can see that we group them by the innovators, early adopters, the laggards, and late majority. And you can see that if we just look at the above, significantly above average and slightly above average, right, for the innovators and early adopters, 23.4% plus 57.4%. You can see that they actually blew away the rating. That means internally what they thought of their supply chain performance relative to their peers in the industry. When we compare that to the laggards and the late majority, let's look at the significantly above average as well as slightly above average again. You can see that it adds up to maybe only about 30%. So a big difference. So in conclusion, customer experience is really becoming a KPI that is really important, and 9 out of supply chain organizations needs to think about this and pay attention and have that priority, as well as to actually look at customer experience and not just something that you can that you want to pilot, but technology is also there to help you. The BlueJ Solutions technology is there to help you to scale that across your different organizations. Okay. So with that, I wanted to pass it back to Razul or if there's any questions from the team, from the folks that is listening in, that'll be fantastic.
Thank you, Joseph. I think that was very insightful for everybody. What I would want to ask you as first question is, from your last slide, you said that technology solution and implementation will be key and will add on to the innovation. What do you think is the best way to decide finally selecting the right technology solution partner? What metrics should supply chain executives keep in mind, and the CIOs?
I think a lot of us as in the technology space as well as in the supply chain space, we have seen projects that was kicked off. Maybe proof of concept was fantastic, delivered to the organizations, and actually they within 12 months they don't actually use that particular system anymore, or that system is put somewhere, and not used on a daily basis and so forth. So I think the key point that we need to look at is that how do we translate, how do we actually define the business benefit, and how do we actually train and execute the solution and make sure that the team actually uses the solution on a daily basis. I think that's the key difference between a successful implementation and a not too successful implementation. So I think teaming up with someone with the right track record, that's really important. Someone that has a technology vendor that has many, many years of experience in the market space. I think that is really key, because there will always be smaller organizations out there that don't have the right track record. It could be in the business for the last 2 years, and they could be so-called out of business within the next year or so. So I think you want someone with a long track record and to be able to partner with and actually deliver those solutions to your organizations.
Okay, and now if we take into consideration track record of companies that excel, how do you want supply chain people to look at those exciting startups that are out there? What because they do not have a very adorable and very attractive track record, right? Because they've just started innovation. How do we have to look at that side?
Correct. We have actually seen those competition out in the market space as well. That means someone that is funded by a venture capitalist. They could be out in the business. They could be giving a really incredibly low price to actually gain that market share in the market space and so forth. But then that said, at the end of the day, you want to partner with someone that has the right track record. Like I said, you don't want someone that you want to partner with that will be out of business, or the VC saying that, hey, it's not paying off, or I can't sell off the company within X number of time, and they start departing and they start consolidating. When it comes to consolidation, these companies start falling off or get acquired, then that solution might become obsolete overnight very quickly. And that solution, you could maybe only have bought that solution like the last 12 months. And immediately it's been obsolete because it has been acquired into a larger organization. And that has so-called, from a roadmap perspective, it doesn't make sense. And they actually move that off their roadmap.
Okay. Now I have a good question here. With creating a competitive advantage through customer experience in supply chain, do you think it is a good time for companies to look at what their competitors are doing? Are they advanced enough, or they should just trust the technology partners that they've joined hands with? Do they look at the competition as well, at what they're doing? Are they that advanced as of now, or they should just follow their technology partners' guideline? What do you suggest?
I think it's a question that doesn't have a straightforward answer, and it's a balance, right? It's a balance of what the customer is looking for, because you must remember that we as technology providers, or even the supply chain companies, are also providing a service to their particular customers. So sometimes it's also looking at their customers' KPIs, what their customers is worried about. Are they worried about on-time deliveries? Are they worried about the right deliveries on the first time? And all these different KPIs that they measure on. So I think it's a balance of between the customer's KPI, they are competitive within their peers itself. What's that competitive advantage that they have in the market space, as well as customer experience. Let's say for example, if everything remains the same, then let's say it's a apple to apple comparison. I would say 9 out of 10 times, then it comes the true differentiator will come down to customer experience. Who has the better experience? Do I have a better experience with company A versus company B? And that's where technology can actually help to make a differentiator. When I log online and I want to find out where my particular parcel is, or where my particular shipment is, am I able to have that at my fingertips? Or is that something that I have to go a couple of layers, have to get on the phone, have to drop an email to a customer service rep, and then wait for half a day or wait for a day for that particular answer?
Okay. Now, if I was to ask you this personal question from my side,
Sure.
What would you rate as 5 strongest benefit around working with BlueJ, especially for companies in India?
I think for companies of India, I think the 5 benefits is definitely you want a company that is invested in India. And I was very upfront to say that if you look at our global footprint, if you look at who we are in the India market space, we have a huge team. Our large R&D centers, our large professional services team within the India space. So immediately that should give confidence to any customer or any partners that we want to partner with within the India space. We are investing in the India market space. Number 2 will be the track record. That means you want to be able to work with a partner that has that track record. So it's not just track record that BlueJ says. I think it's also track record by looking at the position of how we are positioned on like the Gartner Magic Quadrant and so forth. That gives validity to the track record that we have in the market space. Number 3, you want a partner that can help with international expansion. You want a partner that will be able to help you to deliver the same customer experience outside of India. What are my plans? What are my expansion plans? Maybe 5 years down the road, and I'm looking at a North America expansion. Am I looking at a European expansion? Am I looking at an Asia Pacific expansion? Right? So that's number 3. I would say number 4 will be the best of breed technologies. That means you want a company that has the right roadmaps, that think about what is not just happening today, but also what's going to happen within the next 3 years, 5 years. Where is the trend heading up? So you can see that BlueJ Solutions is there. Definitely, we are looking at what's the top of mind in terms of investments, what's the top of mind in terms of priorities for our customers as well as our partners. And that's a company that you want to partner with. And last but not least, right, you have to be competitive in the market space. If you don't provide value, if there's no business benefit, then everything else is good to have. It's not. It doesn't translate it doesn't translate to a ROI. So the business benefit or the ROI will be the key so-called item, point number 5. So I would actually challenge any customer to actually sit down, have that conversation with us. We'll be more than happy to share how we define ROIs, how we want to measure success for a particular implementation, and it has to translate to a business benefit at the end of the day.
Yes. Now, a very trending question has come up. A lot of companies in India are trying to transform their supply chain. The wave is here that says that digitize your supply chain. Okay, but a lot of projects towards this direction, they're not reaching completion. They're starting. There are two problems. Number one is that they're not aligned with the overall corporate strategy. Second, even if they have the right set of talent, maybe, and a good attention towards the projects are not reaching completion. What do you think? This can be solved by working with BlueJ? Have you faced something like this similar in any other part of the country?
So I think great question. And if we go back to the slide, where how BlueJ is ranked on the Gartner Magic Quadrant, if you look at the X and Y axis, if you look at the X axis itself, it's actually our ability to execute. Actually, it's ranked on ability to execute. So you can see that BlueJ is right up there when it comes to ability to execute. And you actually reduce your risk in terms of project mismanagement, or we can't deliver on time, right? You actually reduce the risk. That's one component of reducing the risk. The other component of reducing risk, you want to look at also having that very transparent conversation with the customer itself. So if you look at the BlueJ solutions, so-called software that we provide in the market space, a lot of our platforms are actually configuration. That means we configure the solution to fit our customers. There's very minimal customization. I would say 90% of our projects are actually configurations. So we can deliver that solution. And that's why we actually rank very high in the Gartner Magic Quadrant in terms of ability to execute. Because it is configured, the risk is much lower. You're able to configure a project and go live very quickly, instead of having that customization where then you try to work something out. The delivery timeframes get pushed out longer, and that actually adds risk to any projects itself. So I think we have a good balance in terms of the customization as well as configuration. So I think BlueJ solution is positioned well in terms of executing.
Well, that's what we say in India, that we make informed decisions, and I think the webcast will give enough number of people to make an informed decision towards their transformation. Joseph, you've been in India. What would you like to communicate as a message to India?
I think we are there. I would definitely want to meet up with peers in the market space. So drop by our booth, say hi to me, just reach out. Let's have that discussion. Maybe just a handshake and the discussion, and then we can see whether we have opportunities to collaborate.
All right, so I think now we've taken enough of your time, and thank you for all the insights that you've shared already with the people here. Next, I'll be meeting you as well, and I'm really excited about your presentation at the Technology Supply Chain Conference in Bangalore. Thank you, Joseph, and thank you everyone for being with us today for the last 60 minutes. I hope this was of some help and will lead to some informed decisions. My name is Razum, and I was your moderator today from CPO Innovation. Thank you.